We just need to come to grips with the fact that we need to shift from an extractive economy and society to one that's more regenerative. And that's a really big transformation for humans. We've
Yeah.
just been on this combustion tear for the last century or two. And now we need to figure out another way to do things. But we already have that other way. So I can list off a million things that are wrong, right? I could really go down this doom and gloom trail and get into more and more and more detail about all the ways in which nature is out of balance and all the ways that that's affecting our particular species. But I think this reality check, one of the things for me that really struck home was when the water in Florida got hotter than 100 degrees last summer. That's literally hot tub temperatures. That's a jacuzzi.
Mind-boggling. Yeah.
And that's the place I learned how to swim. That's the place where I decided to become a marine biologist and to think about all those species just sort of frying in place. Corals can't just leave when it gets hot. They can't turn on the air conditioning, right? To the opposite, they're bleaching because of the heat. They're expelling their algae friends that live inside of them that give them all this color. These symbiotic zooxanthellae is their name, that give them their color, that are doing photosynthesis, that are making these sugars that help to feed the coral, that give the reef its vibrant rainbow that we would normally see. The reefs are turning white. The fish are losing their homes. The corals are crumbling. It's a completely different ecosystem than it was when I learned how to swim and when I snorkeled for the first time. And just like humans, all of these species are evolved to live within a pretty narrow temperature range, right? Corals, if we run a fever, if our body temperature is 101 degrees, if it's just a few degrees hotter than 98, we have like a meltdown.
Yeah.
That's happening to like life in general on this planet. It doesn't sound like a lot to warm by a few degrees, but it's like nature's running a fever. And so that's kind of what I keep coming back to as like, we need to cool off this fever.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So as I've already indicated, the posture of your book is, as you kind of indicated at the beginning, you're quite aware of the ways in which kind of depictions of the coming apocalyptic demise doesn't do a lot to cultivate constructive change. And if anything, it kind of perhaps cultivates a sort of passiveness because of a sense of kind of overload or the impossibility of making constructive change, I think. And so you're kind of you're insisting on pointing us toward some sort of hope and possibility for transformation. And the whole title of your book, What If We Get It Right? So talk to us a little bit about that posture of the book with the title, What If We Get It Right?
Yeah. Well, I think the most important thing about the title is that there's a question mark at the end of it, right? It's a very open question. Like, there's not like, the book is not titled, We Will Get It Right, or When We Get It Right, or even this is how we get it right. It's like, it's an invitation, really, the title, inviting us to imagine what that world would look like if we did charge ahead with all the climate solutions that we have at our fingertips, which are basically all we need, right? We already know how to electrify transportation, how to farm in a way that heals ecosystems and brings health back to ourselves. We already know how to green buildings. We know how to compost. We know how to put up solar panels and wind turbines. We know how to protect and restore ecosystems. We know how to replant trees and wetlands and mangroves. We know how to create protected areas and parks, right? There's not a lot of mystery here. We don't need to wait for technology to miraculously come up with something. We don't need to wait for fusion energy to exist. We can do all this right now. And so for me, this what if we get it right question is really like, how do we unlock a much faster transformation? How do we shift society, culture, politics, the status quo in order to just move a lot faster on this stuff? Because from where I'm sitting, we could get a much better world